As a rebellious people, our tendency is using the word of Elohim to justify our sinful ways. We take passages out of context and disregard the rest of the story. In the end, we only hurt ourselves. Shaul, Paul, states the following in his letter to his spiritual son Timothy. Please open your scriptures to 1 Timothy 4:1 through 5. It reads like this. But the Spirit distinctly says that in latter times some shall fall away from the belief, paying attention to misleading spirits and teachings of demons, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having been branded on their own conscience, forbidding to marry, saying to abstain from foods which Elohim created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. Because every creature of Elohim is good, and none is to be rejected, if it is received with thanksgiving, for it is set apart by the word of Elohim and prayer. Verse 4 is normally used to justify eating all the creatures, including those that are unclean. It states that we should not reject any creature of Elohim because everything that Elohim created is good. So you would think that, hey, here it is, But we could eat anything we want. Shellfish, pork, bunny rabbit, mice, roaches, bacon, chocolate, covered ants. They do that. They actually eat chocolate covered ants in Colombia. Anyway, we'll even throw in some baby humans. Cannibalism. Anything goes. Hey, everything he created is good. But you know what? Let's really examine this. Is this what Shaul is really trying to tell Timothy? That you can eat anything you want because everything is good? This is the problem when you take a passage out of its intended context. You see, if I stop there in verse 4, then we could justify eating whatever floats our boat. But let's continue reading. Because verse 5 says the following. It says, for it is set apart by the word of Elohim and prayer. Shaul, or known as Paul, was of the same faith as Messiah Yahu, who's known as Jesus. Therefore, it is correct to say that the expression word of Elohim means the Torah, law, and the prophets. So when we read, for it is set apart by the word of Elohim and prayer, the word of Elohim is actually referring to the Torah, because that's the word of Elohim. And the prophets, of course. When Messiah was in the desert and Satan tempted him, saying, if you are the son of Elohim, then convert this stone to bread, what was his reply? He replied, he said, a man should not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of Yahuwah. He basically quoted Deuteronomy 8:3. He used the sword of the Spirit. By that same token, Shaul makes reference to the Torah instruction, or we say Torah, but it's actually, in English, it should be translated as instruction, because that's what it means in Hebrew, Torah, the instruction of Elohim. So anyway, but in that same manner, Shaul makes reference to the instruction of Elohim when he says that our food is set apart by the word of Elohim and prayer. So it's if you read in Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 45 through 47, you're going to find something good. It says here, and when Moses ended speaking all these words to Israel, he said to them, set your heart on all the words with which I warn you today, so that you command your children to do all the words of this Torah / instruction. All the words of this instruction, all the words of this Torah. For it is not a worthless word to you. Okay, it is not a worthless word for you, because it is your life. And by this word, you prolong your days on the soil which you pass over the Yarden to possess. Now, the word is very specific on what we should be eating. The dietary laws are spelled out in Deuteronomy 14 as well as in Leviticus 11. Elohim cares for us. By his unmerited favor, he imparted to us the proper diet that we should follow and live by. Our bodies are the temple of Elohim. If we mistreat the temple, then we will not be able to serve Elohim properly. Remember this. Psalms 119, 160, it states, "The sum of your word is truth, and all your right rulings are forever." And also, by that same token, Timothy in his Paul in his second letter to Timothy, right? Shaul writes to Timothy and says in 2 Timothy 3:16 and 17, he says, "All scripture is breathed by Elohim and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for setting straight, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of Elohim might be fitted, equipped for every good work." So, in conclusion, we must aim to please Elohim in the foods that we choose to consume. We need to heed his word because it is our life. In the words of Yahushua ben Nun, "Choose today who you are going to serve. As for me and my house, we will serve Yahuwah."